Good morning, Judith.
Good morning, Sonya.
Welcome to the Coach's Cup podcast. I am Sonya Green from Sonya Green Coaching.
And I am Judith Fender, one of the fabulous coaches at the No BS Weight Loss Program.
And this morning, we are here to talk to you about kindness.
My favorite thing.
Yeah, you've even got on your appropriate shirt that says, "Be kind."
I did. It's interesting doing this, a little bit of research on kindness. What came up? There was a point where kindness can be wrong. Like, what? Kindness can be wrong? And anyway, so I questioned my shirt a few weeks ago.
Really? Well, let's talk about being kind and what it is. And then we'll talk about how it can be wrong. But let's talk about what it is first.
Kindness. Oh, gosh. Oh, my goodness. What did I say earlier? Kindness is, it's in the moment when you choose from a place of vulnerability, courage, compassion, empathy, love, the decision that you make without holding on to the outcome for the simple sake of the pleasure that it can bring you, and not, it is for the other person, but not without needing validation from them or words from them, or so it made me think about, right? So where this got into was all these random acts of kindness that you see or hear about. And there's an important word in there. It's random, right? Because when you're doing the random acts of kindness, you are not holding on to the outcome. You are like, the kids, like I still have a rock in my car that I found from a run I did one time where, kids would paint words on rocks. So I have one that says dream, and it has, it's the kids writing. It's right there with the little gift that Bennett gave me. That little Lego person.
Yeah.
Right. Because
I remember that.
When it's kind of like getting a gift from a kid, which in and of itself, I think from this little bit of research, it almost is, if we could think of kindness, like we all had it when we were kids, right? When we genuinely were sad when someone else was sad, when we were happy when someone else was happy, when we gave for the sake of giving, if it was a rock or a little toy, that in those moments that it's, as adults, somewhere we shifted and became protective of ourselves for whatever reasons, for our circumstances, the universe, our interpretation of what was going on in the world, that we learned to behave differently. So if we could almost think of kindness today as unlearning, unconditioning ourselves from everything that we may have been practicing to prevent ourselves from being there. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I love that. I love it. There's a couple of things that you brought out that I want to come back to. Number one, it is something I think that you see in children, and I love that. I think about, Bennett when he wanted to be Santa at Christmas.
Yeah.
And some of you may have seen on my Instagram, I don't know, but he's 8 and he decided he wanted to be Santa at Christmas because to him, giving out gifts was just the coolest thing. And seeing him, we took him to my grandmother's assisted living complex, and he went to a couple other places as well, but he couldn't get enough of it. And never mind the joy that all of those people who came in contact with him, it was really, he was benefiting from that. And I think you're right. I think there is something about kindness removed from what the other person gets. It's kind of like forgiveness. We talked about forgiveness, and it's the same thing. It's really for the person who's giving it, even though the benefit can be bigger.
Right. And that is where, it's been the expansion.
Yes.
Right. It's living in that knowing that how do I want to phrase this, that impact is ongoing, that you may just interact with someone in the grocery
like
store.
Ripples in a pond.
Right. There you go. The ripples that it expands with, letting go of the outcome, that 1%, when you impact someone, that 1% goes on forever, and you just never know. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The other thing that I like that you said about it, well, it's not that I like this, but I think it's very true, is that there is something that happens in us where we do get protective of our
emotion.
Yeah. Yeah. Our emotions, we get, well, I'll tell you, I was listening to something, and they were talking about how, Darwin's whole idea of survival of the fittest. We get this idea that it's not kindness that moves the world forward. It's aggression and being the strongest. But actually, Darwin also, in his research in that same book, talks about how the cultures that he came upon that were empathetic and that worked together, communities that worked together and had a sense of kindness, those communities lasted longer. And so I think, we do tend to get protective of it as we become older and are
hardened.
Yeah.
Tendency, right? The tendency.
It is the tendency.
When we're not self-developing or being curious about things or open to the process. And I think I came across maybe part of that article where it went on to explain about the furthering to the point that we were just talking about, the expansion of kindness in community, right? And the benefits, regardless of if we took that practice of empathy in the community of the caveman, that if we carried that forward, how it would impact the world.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Viewing the kinship.
And something else that I was looking at talks about how many times the thing as an adult, other than us getting harder, I think, is stress often gets in the way of kindness. And I wrote that down because that hits me so dead center. I know when I'm stressed, I'm much shorter in the way I respond to people. In the way it's like, can't you see I've got a million things to do? I don't have time to deal with your problem. I don't say that, but that's the way I feel sometimes. And it's that stress that I let get in the way. It's easier to protect myself.
Interesting, because also, and don't think I don't understand. Like,
no, I know.
I'm like, I get it. Stress.
It's a common thing.
We're all humans here. And that in of itself is the kindness.
Yes.
Is that understanding, is being kind to yourself in those moments when you are stressed and others come to make requests of you. And that's where it can dip into people pleasing, when you are sacrificing yourself for others from a place of really not wanting to or knowing it didn't serve you.
Yeah. I'll give you an example. I was really proud of myself. Maybe this is getting away from the idea of kindness, but I do think it's something that I learned. Actually, I'm just going to go with it because I think it's going to work here. Because it's the opposite of people pleasing. So in December, to give you all who didn't know, just kind of a background, my father had several surgeries. I was taking him back and forth to the hospital and to the emergency room, to the doctor, because he had a staph infection in his eye, and that caused him to need more surgeries. And in the midst of that, we had a tornado outbreak that took down our barns at our farm and damaged equipment. And so I had all of that going on and the end of the semester. And so one of the classes I taught was a senior seminar. And after I turned in grades, like I was at pretty much the end of my road. I was under a lot of stress. And at the end of the semester, after I turned in grades, I had several students who wanted to meet with me to talk about their papers that they had written for the class and talk about what they could do with them, which is an absolutely normal request. Normally I would have made the time, even though I was officially on break at that point, I would have made the time to do it. But I recognized
Nice. Yeah.
that if I did that at that point, it would be coming from a place of people pleasing. It would not be coming from a healthy space for me. And so I wrote back the class and I told them, listen, I am more than happy to give you feedback on your papers, but right now I need some time. And I will be happy the first of the semester to meet with you, to schedule a meeting. We'll talk all about your papers and what you can do with them, where you can go with them. But now I have to just have some radio silence.
Wow. Yeah. I think that's a beautiful.
Well, and it was kind not only to me,
Yes,
but it was kind to them, because if I had met with them in the headspace I was in,
right.
it wouldn't have been as productive for them either.
And I mean, the full scope of that is you were also modeling good boundaries.
Yes.
For them, demonstrating a healthy space.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny how proud I felt of myself for doing that. I was almost giddy that I had recognized that and took a moment to create that space for myself. And that was kindness, I think, like I said, for me and for them. So I hadn't really thought about that until you said it that way.
It is like, it's because it was, in the moments in that space, you made a loving, vulnerable, courageous decision.
Yeah. Because in people pleasing, what's that driving force? So many times it's, will they like me if I don't do this?
Yeah. What will they think?
Yeah.
What will they think?
Yeah.
Needing that validation, that from the outside.
Yeah. And so when we can drop that need for validation, when we can understand that this is not the thing that's going to push us forward,
Right.
then I think then we can differentiate between that and people pleasing a little easier.
Right. And like, even like that, in that moment, like thinking like that could propel you under. Had you said yes, it would have put the stress factor, the more under, and you would have, how you could have shown up. Yeah. Oh,
not in a good space. Not the way I would want to. Not in a way that would make me proud later. So why do we even need to be talking about kindness today? Because the other thing you mentioned as you were talking about this was self-development, and people who self-develop, they're probably already kind people, right?
Well, they are, but here's the big thing, right? Like, we talk about being kind to others, but again, I want to mirror that back, like how that was kind for yourself. And so many people who are self-developed, we see it in our clients, I see it in myself, is that having that space of kindness for ourselves. That first question, is it kind? Is it helpful? Is it needed?
Yes.
Right. And asking yourself in those moments. So knowing that it's a practice, that it involves, it's a skill set. It's not just one thing, that it is many things that we get to practice.
Yeah.
Did I answer your question?
No, you absolutely did. And I think I'll take this in a different direction, because when I was thinking about why it's important, there's always been plenty of unkindness in the world, of course. But I think in our social media culture, in our media culture in general, what sells, what gets clicks and likes it's drama. It's not simple kindness.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes it's nice to just be able to look at something that's not going to light up our brains. It's just going to be that simple kindness of the moment.
I am getting ready to go off the rails on the news.
I can tell you where the time
like, holy, y'all buckle up. I'm going to express an opinion here. One, I don't watch the news anymore. It may be once a month. I mean, there, maybe, but I'm going to throw, it's ABC News, because that's what we get out here. It is 28 minutes and 30 seconds of shit about how bad the world is. And they spend 45 seconds on a one feel good story at the very end. 45 seconds to get us to feel good. And I would love nothing more, right? Because dirty laundry sells, just like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not, I mean, I don't think it's any channel specific, honestly.
Yeah.
I think
I'm picking on ABC. That's because that's who I get here.
Yeah. No, but really, I mean, I think it's media in general. And here's another aside. Media companies are mostly owned by the same conglomerates. If you track them up, right. There are only about 6 corporations that run the entire world, and the media companies are owned by the same people. So,
right.
So,
yeah.
Sorry.
But to the point, like where I was actually going with this 30-minute news segment is, if we think of that's our brain, right? If we're geared towards negativity, that negative bias, and we're going to be, if our self-talk is 95% negative, yes. And we're not, just knowing that that's what we're dealing with is 30 minutes of hardcore news like that. And we're spending 45 seconds on being kind to ourselves and how to balance that out and get to that space of being in kinship, right? And that kindness is rooted in connection. That is like
genuine connection.
Genuine connection. It's hardwired in us. Mm-hmm. I'm on my coffee.
I was ready for you to keep going. Yeah. Yeah. And here's the thing, we've talked about neuroplasticity before. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But you mentioned that we're hardwired for kindness. We are hardwired for kindness. I think that is represented when what you were talking about, seeing children who have this almost, I guess, innate gift for kindness. Yeah. But we become what we practice. And that also works into our kindness practice. We talk about that all the time. You have to practice a skill. You don't just have it. Mm-hmm. And that works with kindness too. If we're feeding on a diet of whatever it is, whether it's caused by the media, whether it's caused by our stress and work life, and whatever we're focusing on and practicing, that's what we're going to groove into our brains.
Right. And to another metaphor for that is like, who among us hasn't belonged to like a Gold's Gym or Planet Fitness? Well, I've never been. Anyway, when you go to the gym and until all those, they've got 500 pieces of equipment in there and each one is so muscle specific, right?
Yeah.
But you know how to use 3 machines. When you go into that place, which ones are you going to use?
Those 3.
Those 3, Yeah. So it's just learning to develop that kindness is learning to use all 500 pieces of the equipment, maybe not all at once, but that it is a skill set to practice and build that muscle, each muscle independently, and having those tools to call upon in the moments to be kind.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love that. What are some other ways that you see us building a kindness practice?
Does everyone talk about empathy?
If you want to, one of the things that I saw again and again that I assumed that you I know that you also practice, is that sense of intentionality.
Right.
How, in fact, it's funny to me that they call random acts of kindness random, because they aren't often random at all. They're very intentional. It may be random who receives.
For the receiver, yeah.
Yes, it's random for the receiver, but for the actual giver of the kindness, it's very intentional.
Right. Well, I was listening to Andrew Huberman, and he was talking about, someone posed a question to him about kindness and, like, why do we do it? And he said, it's for the love, right? That's why when we do the things over and over, like doing the random acts of kindness for others, it's for the joy and love that it brings ourselves, for just thinking about someone, some kid sat there and painted on all these little rocks.
Yeah.
Knowing that it would bring joy to the recipients,
but not knowing who.
But not knowing who exactly. And it was me. Yeah. And I still, when I think about that, it gives me joy that someone else had joy in their heart, love in their heart for wanting to make my day, make us.
One of the definitions that I read of kindness, you're usually our definition person, but I came across this and I wrote it down, was just love in action.
Yeah.
And I thought, that is simple, it's to the point, and it's very true. Being willing to share that.
I came across that the definition in Arabic of human translates into forget, like literally translates into forget. And that related to the unlearning of being a human, right? If we unlearn our human tendencies, if we forget those human tendencies and go back to that childlike state, that if we forget that stuff that we learn, that anyway, I'm just looking for.
No, I think that has a lot to do with those of us who practice self-development. How much time do we spend trying to rewire our brains to forget all of the stuff that we've put on in our adulthood? And as we're growing up, we're trying to unlearn. So I think that's beautiful. I think that's perfect.
Yeah. And it sounds so, and when we're doing this self-development, we go back to those places when we were a kid and we remember the moments that someone was mean to us, or someone said something to us, or first protected ourselves, or like, and being in middle school and being fearful and anxiety and thoughts about our size and thoughts about what other people are thinking about us, and all of that BS started.
Yeah.
We go back to before the BS.
When it was just kindness.
When it was just,
and sharing.
Okay, so I have in my notes that kindness is adapting to the unfamiliar environment. That when we are adapting, that kindness is an adaptability skill set, right?
Interesting.
Because you have to, in the moment, you're deciding and adapting to, with your 500 tool sets, which tool is this what's going to be kind for me in this moment.
I mean, that goes back to that whole idea, where people want to pick up on Darwin's survival of the fittest, but really it's those cultures that figured out a way to work together with other cultures to work within a system of empathy and kindness that lasted. And so I think that probably connects to that adaptive practice.
And it's interesting you said that. I came across Simon Sinek. Do you know who I'm talking about? Simon somebody? It was a TEDx talk, and he was talking about in the workplace how it was specific to empathy and trust and leadership. and the skill set that you're looking for. And he talks about how Navy SEALs, like the team of Navy SEALs, how they're going to pick a leader. So like apparently, like I might be butchering this, y'all, but hang with me. It's something like, they're the elite of the elite, the Navy SEALs. Mm-hmm. And when they pick a leader, they ask 2 questions. Would I trust this person with my wife? Would I trust this person with
my life or with my wife?
My wife. Not my life, my wife.
Okay, go ahead. I wasn't expecting that one.
I know, right? And then I think it was my money with my bank account, And so what this synthesized down to, they had this graph or this, I don't even know what you call these things in math. Like it looks like an L, and then they had these quadrants. And so would you want someone that's empathetic and trusting? And that's what it boiled down to. You don't want someone who is, what were you talking about? Assertive and aggressive and has no empathy or no trust skill and like this thing. So it boiled down to, they would settle, air quote, empathy and trust in the leader.
Yeah. Yeah. Which makes perfect sense.
Right. And I was actually, and I was coaching one of my clients. She had been to a retreat, and she was talking about the leader that she had and how she had lots of thoughts. And I don't know that they're right or wrong, but these were her thoughts, that he was very competitive, very physical, and he put them into teams and had them competing against each other. We're talking about, I think there were 3 females and the rest were males, and they're out there on the beach doing these competitive things. And, thinking like, how empathetic, how trusting of a leader is this? And it was all about him. But where am I going with this?
Yeah. I have. We do a lot of research and technical writing. This may surprise you, on teams, writing teams.
Okay.
And male, female collaboration and how that works. And so I spend a lot of time on that in class. That's and those are stereotypes, granted.
Right. But he had no empathy for
Yes.
considering the physical skill set or how someone else is going to feel out there on the beach in fitted clothes, considering body size, how this impacts when you're one of 3 females amongst men competing tug of war, volleyball, and running and other BS things that have nothing to do with the business.
Yeah. So how could kindness play into that?
Oh my gosh. Well, you would need to pull out several of your tools from I'm going to call it an umbrella of kindness, right? Is it loving? Is it kind? Dropping perspective into what do you call your team? What would they be experiencing?
Yeah.
How is this fair? What are they really learning here? What are we really doing in this moment as we're competing against each other when we're all a team?
Yeah. No, I love that, because is it building trust? Absolutely not. Is it building empathy? No. No, it's not. I mean, and that may not be helpful. I'm kind of taking this out of the coaching context because it may not be helpful to go through all the things that he's doing wrong
it's just
for her. But it does help, especially if you are in a leadership role. A lot of the women I coach are in some kind of leadership role. And if it is a man's world where you work, and it is for many of us, then you may just have learned from somewhere in your past, from our culture, that the way to work in that world is being competitive. It's not thinking about kindness.
That's that Darwin, right? We think it's the assertive, when in fact it's the Navy SEALs one, where we're going to take the empathetic, trusting soul.
That's what I love. I mean, what's more macho than a Navy SEAL?
Right.
And yet they're going to boil it down to empathy and trust. So talk about how empathy and kindness work together, because we've thrown both of those words around several times, but I don't think we've really tied it together.
Well, when we think of, I think of empathy, if somewhere I had came across this metaphor of empathy is your ability to stand in the rain with someone, right?
Yeah.
Sympathy would be, here's an umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
Apathy would be like, it's raining. But empathy would be like, yeah, and I'm right here with you. It's raining and I'll stand in the rain with you.
I love that. And I'll tell you why, because several of the things that I read about empathy was talking about, our tendency sometimes in fact, we even use this. Empathy is walking in somebody's shoes, being able to walk in their shoes, but that's really not the best place to be. You don't want to be in their shoes because then you can't offer them space. You want to be beside them.
Right. I'm right here with you. Yeah. And it's raining.
But it's not my struggle. It's yours, but I'm going to be here to support you.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love that too. When I think about trust, I think of, and I would like to find my Brene Brown book real quickly, because it is actually trust. Yes. So I'm like, wait a minute. Oh, wait, here's mine.
Yeah, I was sad that we're talking about Atlas of the Heart, folks. This is unintentionally turning into an ad for Brene Brown's newest book. I was a little sad that kindness wasn't one of the words that she forefronted. She talks about compassion.
My word of the year, I have driven from her definition of self-trust, which is the acronym BRAVING. And so it's interesting as we're talking about this, and I haven't put this was not part of my deep studying on this, but when you're thinking about a leader and you're looking for someone you can trust, trust is built on those small, doable actions that that you can count on someone for. But then the self-trust comes from, it was boundaries. Oh my gosh, braving. Let me find it here. You talk. Let me look real quick. Maybe we pause here.
Yeah, maybe we pause here.
But it's so good. It ties in with trust anyway. What page it is?
I did think it was interesting that that kindness wasn't one of the words.
Yeah, I did too. I think it's kind of like, even though I think of grief as an umbrella, I think of kindness as an umbrella.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's hard to, because it's so many things.
Mm-hmm.
It's so many things.
That's true. Yeah. Okay. You found braving?
Hold on. Okay. Well, I'm going to give two definitions. Okay. That's right. There's no pause. I'm in my brain. Oh, that's right. And this is all going to be on YouTube.
Keep going.
Okay. So in her book, Atlas of the Heart, Brene Brown, the definition that she comes up with from Charles Feltman is trust as choosing to risk making something you value vulnerable to another person's actions. And so from that, she goes on to talk about self-trust. Again, this is I'm using self-trust and the acronym of braving. So self-trust is normally the first casualty of failure or mistakes. We stop trusting ourselves when we hurt others, get hurt, feel shame, or question our worth. So the acronym braving is the B. Did I respect my own boundaries? Was I clear about what's okay and what's not okay? R, was I reliable? Did I do what I said I was going to do? A, did I hold myself accountable? V, did I respect the vault and share appropriately? And I love that so much. I used to work out with a really good friend, and she had a fitness room in her basement, and there were three of us, and we called it the vault. Like when we were in there working out, what we talked about stayed in the vault. And that's exactly what I think of. It's sealed in. I only share, what it was shared in a sacred space. And we never talked about it outside these walls. And if we did, it was with the most respect and very carefully cultivated. Did I act from integrity? I think that's, that just falls right into, again, like this is braving is the umbrella for many things like kindness.
Yeah.
Did I ask for what I needed? Was I non-judgmental about needing help? And for me personally, that might be if I had a weakness, asking for help is probably where my work lies.
Yes.
And G, was I generous toward myself? And so that acronym, we could even call that braving could be kindness.
Absolutely.
Every all that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so it's about time for us to wrap up.
Yeah.
But what is one thing that we can leave that you would want to leave with our listeners about kindness to help them incorporate more intentionally kindness into their lives?
Oh my gosh, I guess I would go with being kind to yourself first, and asking yourself, because when we cultivate, and it's actually, no, that's wrong. That's not wrong, but when we are in a stressful state, the act of being kind to others can actually help pull us from the state. Now, I understand what you were talking about in that moment, like it was a decision, but where in your life could you be struggling? And when you get that perspective and step outside of yourself and show up in the moments, in the grocery store, in the car line, in relationships, just where in the world can you be in service with not holding on to any result, just for the sake of the joy, that the possibility it could painting a rock.
Yes. Yeah.
With a dream and a sunshine on it. The word dream, where could you put a rock for someone to find that they could find joy and love and feel great in the rest of their day? I've been carrying it around for 3 years now.
Yeah. Well, and to be fair, one of the reasons that I said no to their request was because I realized in that moment, if I had said yes, it would have been people pleasing. It would not have been being kind to anyone.
And you were also like, there is stress, and like, then there's stress. You were in like, we were deep stress.
It was an unusual situation. It really was. There were a lot of compounding things, but I think you're right. Taking a moment to just be able to clear out all of that stress and see through it and realize what is kind in this moment. And you referenced John Acuff's 3 questions.
I didn't even know they were his.
Is it kind? Is it
helpful? Is it true?
Yes. I think he starts with, is it true? Is it helpful? And is it kind is the last one. But those are such good questions for us to ask on a daily basis in making our decisions. And maybe that's what I'll leave people with. Part of our intentionality, again, is taking the pause, taking the time to question what our intentions are in the moment. Is it helpful? Is it true? And is it kind? And if it's not kind, then let's make a different decision.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you are looking for, be kind.
I'm pointing to my shirt, y'all.
Yes. Which says be kind across the front. Yeah. So if you are looking for coaching, you can certainly find me at sonyagreencoaching.com. And I love to coach on empowerment issues for women. And Judith?
Yeah, if you would like to work with me, I primarily work with women who are looking to lose weight and up-level their life along the way. You can find me if you Google Corinne Crabtree, no BS 411. You're going to come across the free paid. If if you're not already an OBS woman, you will find the website where you can take Corinne's free course, and it's just amazing. She puts it all out there, and you can find me on Instagram, and that is just Judy.
Yeah.
Just Judy. That's it on Instagram.
Yes.
Not my email address. My email address is very close to that.
JUSTJUDIE.
Thank you, Sonya.
Yeah. And I'm doing this because I always forget to put my Instagram handle on there, but it's at Sonya, SONYA _green coaching. So we would love to work with you and help you on your journey. If you are, I've completely lost the word. If you are a regular listener of the Coach's Cup podcast, we have an extra mug laying around that we found, and that we'd love for you to have. So here's the way to get that extra mug. This week, if you will, are you getting excited?
I'm excited. Yeah.
If you will share something about our podcast on Instagram with your friends, then you can tag just Judy and Sonya Green Coaching. Then we will get in touch with you and we will send you a mug of your very own, as we have.
Let's just talk about the random act of kindness here. You share, be kind, and share just for the sake of sharing the podcast. No, well, there's an outcome there, right?
There is an
possibility of getting a cup. Chances are you're not going to get a cup, but you're going to willing to stick it out there anyway. There's just one.
we do appreciate our listeners so much, and so we'd love for you to win that mug. I got one mug rattling around, so do that, and we'll see you next week.
All right, bye, y'all.